is really boring. May pamanggamak hindi si Sunny. Guys, if there is one thing constant in this world apart from change and apart from paying tax, it's folding clothes and doing the laundry.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome again to Anaflor's Home University. Okay, for this lecture, I will talk about training and development. Okay, so before I start this lecture, I would like to give a shout out as promised to Miss Miane, Miss Miriam, I miss you, and to the rest of the HR angels. Hello, hello. I hope that you're all doing good, and I'm praying that you are all healthy and safe. Okay. Class, before I really do the in-depth overview of what is training and development, let me share to you my experience, my previous work experience. I have been a training officer of a very, very beautiful and wonderful company, which I worked for around 13 years of my life. So I am blessed to have that company as my first employment because it was able to give me a lot of beautiful memories, experiences, and most of all, it molded me to become a better person. With my experience as a training officer in my previous company, of just going into the details, what's on the book, what's on your module, I would just like to share instead my experience, my work experience, how I do my actual work or how I do my actual job as a training officer. I'd like to share an annual perspective of what I've been doing as a training officer. Before going into the details, into the process, let us try to get to know first what is the role of a training officer in an organization. I was the training officer in that organization. My overall or general function is basically I'm in charge with the overall training and development programs of the entire organization. So we have about more than 300 employees before, and geographically lagyo mi all over Mindanao and Visayas. Overall function is equip these employees to become better in their jobs. Okay, to become better persons in the organization as a whole. So that's basically it. Simple ra kayang trabaho sa training officer. Okay, so let's now go into the details. Okay, so as a training officer before, my work really started, number one, with identifying the training needs of the employees. Identifying the training needs. So we have the so-called TNA, or the Training Needs Assessment. So how did I identify the training needs of the employees? Because the very concept of having a training needs assessment is for you to be able to identify what are the training needs of the employees in the organization. Because actually kani manggong training sa way paglipod-lipod, mahal ni siya, gasto ni siya, it needs a lot of resources. More than money, it also requires time, effort. So that's why kanang magkanda ka og training sa usa ka employee, sa mga employees, dili na siya ingon nga basta lang. it should be planned. And the planning is in the training needs assessment because kanang pang-atinan nga mga trainings sa usa ka employee, it should address the need of the employee and at the same time the need of the organization, because that's where strategic training comes in, diba? We talk about strategic human resource management, and of course training is a more of a specific function of an HR practitioner. So, how can training become strategic? Simple, as you already know, it can become strategic if it is able to support the overall goals of the organization. So, dapat di ay ang mga trainings, the training programs that must be given to the employees should support the overall goals, directions, and objectives and vision of the entire business operation. Okay. Now, apart from the perspective of the organization, it should also address is the skills gap or the competency gap of the employee. If the demand of the job does not equal to the capability of the existing employee, then that is where our skills gap is. So, kanang gap di ana dayon mo na siya'y punan sa training. Now, take note, di ba? We are saying training and development. Kanang duha, mo nang gi-emphasize gina siyang duha because I've noticed usahay ma-interchange na siya. But, kanang although it has a similar concept, but it has also a difference because when we say training, ang training programs manggod are meant to address the current skills of the employee, no? It is meant to improve the current skills of the employee para mas effective siya sa iyang current job. Take note of the word current. While ang mga development programs, this may not address the current skills gap of the employee, but it is actually meant to prepare the employee for a much bigger role in the organization. So all of these are proactive approach. So kaning mga development programs, this is important in succession planning po na siya. No? So because whenever there are naimo retire, naimo resign nga mga managers or mga supervisors, the organization should be prepared and they should have a man in the pocket that has been already trained and na-develop na siya to replace the manager or the outgoing manager or the supervisor. So, maunay purpose nga nung naatay mga development programs. So now, you already know the difference what is a training program as opposed to a development program. So that's why it's called training and development program because naagi na siya significant na difference. Okay, so after identifying the training needs assessment, what I did before is question is, yun sa manimo pag-identify, ma'am, sa mga training needs sa employees. There can be a lot of sources sa when you identify training needs. Then again, wala yun na siya by the book yun ha kung unsaon yun nimo, but again, just like human resource planning, it requires initiative and creativity yun. But there are tools to do that. So, you have a lot of sources. What I did before is I did surveys, I also did interviews, I also do data mining, no, sa mga performance appraisal sa usa ka employee because naaman to dito'y mga areas for improvement. Now, katong mga areas for improvement dito ko magkuha og mga training programs nga pwede ma-address niya kay areas for improvement man to niya. And in fact, Miss Miriam again, so every after training, no, or not every after training but every after performance appraisals mo na amo ang panglantawon, i-record na siya namo. We have a monitor for that. Okay, now again, in training also, it's important, just like human resource planning, to have data and information nga naa nimo. because when you gather data so that you would be able to identify what are possible training programs that you will give to the employees, magamit yun to siya nimo. Okay? Now, again, just like human resource planning, dapat nakasabot po ka of the overall operation of the organization, because without understanding what the mga functions sa most sa mga employees, how can you be able to create training programs if wala ka kabaloon sa ilang ipanggama? No, that's actually common sense. Okay, so apart from that, TNA, I also gather feedback from the immediate head of the employees, the managers, the area managers of the organization, because basi naapod sila yung mga suggestions on how employees can become better in their jobs. Okay, so after identifying the training needs of the employees, what I did before is I would identify if this particular identified training program, if we can do it internally or we will outsource the training program. So, we have crafted actually mga in-house, we call it in-house training programs. When we say in-house training programs, we mean nga the company will kanang facilitate it. So, we will not invite external facilitators. We will not invite external resource speakers. So, instead, we will utilize amo ang mga because our department heads, our managers are empowered and they are also trained to become trainers. No, we have already identified pool of trainers para amo ang pwedeng ma-invite to facilitate training programs, because we have regular training programs na in the organization. We have the following are our regular training programs. As far as I can remember, we have customer service training program. Then we also have basic supervisory. Then we also have 6S orientation. Then for every new employee, we also conduct company orientations. Then basic branch operations. Then what else? We also do trainers training. Actually, trainers training is among of the development programs, because not all employees gets to join or gets to be invited to join the trainers training, but we choose, of course, with recommendation of their immediate head, of the top management also. Ang among i-invite ana nga mo join are those groomed for managerial positions. So we have kanang mga in-house na nga mga training programs. Okay, so that's why majority of our training programs medyo makatipid me, because we will not anymore pay for professional fees nga mahal para sa mga external resource speakers, because our managers, department heads are already equipped with the skills in delivering trainings also for the rest of the employees in the organization. Next is, if there are particular training that cannot be facilitated or dili siya pwede i-in-house because we don't have enough resources for it. Let's say, for example, we don't have enough expert resource speaker for the topic or for the program, then that's the time we will invite external resource speakers, external facilitators, or sometimes instead of inviting external resource speakers, we will just send few of our employees to mga training centers, external nga mga training centers, para mo join ani nga particular nga training program. Okay, so after identifying the training needs, whether it should be done in-house lang ba, or we will just outsource it, the next process that I did was the time for me to prepare budget. So, mag-prepare na ko og budget. annual budget. And for me, mo ni siya pinaka kuti, very tedious, because as much as possible our budget would really kanang match up with the actual budget. But of course, we know that budget is just a forecast lang man na siya. Naagi na siya yung mga changes, but we make sure that the major component of the cost in doing the training program is included in the budget. And what are these costs, or what are these mga expenses that needs to be forecasted? Well, mga transportation expenses, meal allowances, mga professional fees if we invite facilitators. So mga what else? Materials needed. So kana siya dapat ma-reflect na siya sa amo ang annual budget. Na okay, so kanang pagdetermine lang sa annual budget, kuti baya na siya. You should have data. Again, you should have, before we base it on historical cost. Kung pilay, let's say pilay plitihan ani, and then we just allocate lang dayon mga allowances for inflation pag mutaas dahi ang presyo, like sa meals. And we also have standard na dayon nga mga budget, like for example, if breakfast pila dapat, then if lunch pila. So we have already kanang murag taripa ba kung how much ang among per head nga budget. So that's what we did. Now, after preparing the entire budget, that's the time that we get the annual training budget approved by the top management. Okay, so kinahanglan na siya namo i-present and i-justify why we have this amount and why we have these training programs. So dapat pag atubang ana sa top management, you have the data and you can explain it well why the company will spend this much for trainings. And take note, mahal-mahal gid siya. 6 digits gid siya. Because as I have said, my previous organization is really investing on its people, because it believes that the only way for the organization to grow is to grow its people also. So that's why it invested heavily on trainings for the employees. And that's, I think, that's a competitive edge for the organization. Okay, so after the approval of the training budget, annual training budget, that's the time also that we will calendar all training activities. So we utilized Gantt charting. I was using Microsoft Outlook before, so that walay ma-left out nga schedule, plan ahead na siya tanan. Plotting. And apart from plotting the schedule, it's also communicating with the participants na dayon. And the participants are the employees of the organization, communicating these schedules, because naamay mga peak days sa usa ka branch, no? Because naaman sila sa operation, naay mga times nga dili pwede sila makulangan og tawo because some of their people are attending trainings kay mapiangan sila. So that's why it's also important that in scheduling also, dili gina siya namo itunong sa peak season, because to make sure nga dili ra pud mag-suffer ang operation sa branch nila. And after that, that's the time also that for training programs nga pag in-house na, that's the time nga mag-design nami og training programs if ever wala pa yung mga existing nga mga training programs for that. But if naanay mga existing training programs for that, amo na lang dahil na siyang i-coordinate sa mga facilitating departments kung kinsa ang mag-facilitate ana. Okay? And then after na, if nakaset na siya tanan, here comes the implementation of the actual training programs. Before the actual implementation of the training programs, of course, we issue memorandum, We also prepare individual budgets, no? Medyo kuti yun na siyang trabaho, but it's how we did, no, with my partner, Miss Miriam. And then coordination with the branches, coordination with possible nga stayhan nila nga accommodation, because some of them are from Visayas, Luzon. Our main training hub is in Dipolog City, and some are coming from Cebu, from Misamis Occidental, Misamis Oriental, and then some are coming from Zamboanga del Sur, and from Napay Negros Occidental, okay, from Dumaguete, from Bacolod. So ingon ana siya. So, and then after the implementation of the training programs, documentation, no, naana di ana ang documentation, and then recording of mga certificates, and then after that is the evaluation, training evaluation. Take note, it's very important to have evaluation for training effectiveness, because that's how you will be able to assess whether to continue or not continue the training programs, because implementing training programs are expensive, diba? If you are investing, or if the organization is spending much on a training program that's ineffective, that's very impractical, no? That's on the losing end. So why would you implement a training program nga dili po siya effective? So sayang lang man, diba? So measuring training effectiveness is important, and I will do that in my next lecture, because mataas na dahil ng ato ang lecture. So I think that's it. So I hope I was able to share with you the practical steps and guides and on how to do the job of a training officer. So with that, I'm saying good night and thank you for watching. This has been Ana Flor Adrias, and you are watching Ana Flor's Home University. Bye-bye!